Hey guys, Reggie here with fulltimerep.com, and in this video I'll be showing you how I shoot luxury real estate listings for my clients. Now, photos I've shot using this exact method have been featured in major publications, so I hope that these tips can help you cut down on your learning time and get results fast. Also, there's a lot of information covered in this video, so I made a free checklist that you can download. If you're interested, it's linked in the description. All right, before we get started, there's two main techniques used by most real estate photographers. With the flash ambient technique, we use a flash to light the room, taking a few different shots, then edit them together into a single photo. With the high dynamic range technique, or HDR for short, we use a setting on our camera that shoots between 3 to 7 shots at different exposures. Then we can merge those shots together into a single photo as well. There's pros and cons to using either technique, but I personally use HDR because it gets me excellent results with less time and less equipment. On most jobs, I'm responsible for shooting photos, video, drone, and virtual tours, so being efficient with my time is key to my workflow. Today I'm shooting on a Sony a7S III full frame camera. I have a wide angle Sigma 14-24 for the interiors and a Sony 24-70 for the exteriors and detail shots. I use a Leofoto tripod with twist lock legs that also has the adjustable center column and rotating ball head. Another option is to use a geared tripod head, which allows you to make more precise adjustments, but they do cost a bit more. But don't worry, you don't need to go out and get this exact setup or spend a bunch of time researching the latest gear online. While my a7S III is great for video work, I can't really spot the difference in quality when comparing the photos taken on my original Panasonic GH5. And since we're always shooting at a high f-stop, you don't need to spend the extra money on a fast lens. For your lens, you do want to make sure to get at least a 16mm wide on a full frame, or for APS-C and micro four thirds, you'll need to calculate in the crop factor. For your camera, make sure it has the auto bracketing feature, but don't worry too much about megapixels because your photos will be downsized for the MLS. Before I start taking photos, I'll do a quick walkthrough of the house and turn on all the lights, open the windows, and close the toilet seats. And then I'm also checking for any key features that I want to highlight. If I can, I'll find an empty closet or somewhere that I can stash my equipment so that it'll be out of sight once I start shooting. With the camera set up on the tripod, I'll do a quick check of my camera settings. I like to shoot raw images at a 3:2 aspect ratio, and I use 5-shot exposure bracketing at 2 stops. These settings work for me, but I also know photographers that use 7 brackets, some shoot JPEG for the smaller file size, or prefer a 4:3 aspect ratio. So feel free to experiment with your settings over time and dial them into your preferences. Lastly, I use a 2-second delay timer, and this helps reduce the camera shake when my finger comes off the shutter button. It also comes in handy when I need an extra second to jump out of the shot where my reflection might be showing in the mirror. So with my general settings squared away, I'm ready to frame up my first shot. Knowing the basics of composition is key to taking great photos, so I've broken it down into a 3-step process that you can put into practice. And those 3 steps are height, placement, and verticals. So the first step is getting your tripod height set to the appropriate level. In real estate, it's important to keep the camera level to get good vertical lines. So never adjust your framing by tilting the camera up or down. You'll need to raise and lower your tripod as you go. I like to start with my camera roughly at waist level because the amount of ceiling and floor in the frame appear evenly balanced. You might need to adjust if you have higher or lower ceilings. For kitchens, I usually raise the tripod around chest height to get above the tables and countertops. Whereas if I have a low bed or coffee table, I might bring my tripod down to knee height to show it better. Again, these are just broad recommendations, so play around with your tripod height to best match the features in each frame. Once you've set your tripod height, the next step is to choose your camera placement for the shot. A great rule of thumb is to show 2 walls in each shot. This makes it easy when shooting rectangular rooms because I can start in the corner, shoot the first 2 walls, then go kitty corner and shoot the opposite 2 walls. When I'm framing up the shot, I try to get as far back into the corner without damaging anything. Then I adjust either my tripod position or the zoom on my lens to match the corners of the room. And this looks all right, but personally I like to add a bit more depth to the image. So I'll reveal just a bit of that 3rd wall. But be careful when showing more than 2 walls because the wide angle lens distortion can get really obvious. Of course, not every room is shaped like a rectangle, so follow these rules like a pro and break them like an artist. With my tripod height and placement set, I'll use the ball head and zoom to check for straight vertical lines on the borders of my frame. Having straight vertical lines is the most important detail when shooting real estate interiors because the wide angle lens causes distortion that'll make your photos look unprofessional. There are editing techniques that can correct some lens distortion, but best practice is to always shoot with straight verticals. So how do we achieve this? First, I loosen the ball head and use the on-screen leveling gauge built into my camera to get it even. If your camera doesn't have this leveler, then you can buy a bubble leveler that fits into your camera's shoe mount. Next, I'll check both of my edges in the frame and try to line them up to clean vertical borders on either side. That can be a wall, a door, a picture frame, anything else that creates a straight vertical line. And lastly, I'll play with the zoom to tidy up the edges. So for example, if I'm bordered up to say a door or a window frame, I want to make sure it has a clean edge without cutting anything off. Okay, so now that we have our image framed up, the last thing we need to do is get the proper exposure. Starting with the aperture or f-stop, I keep mine set to f8 and I don't change it throughout the entire shoot. This ensures that all elements in the image stay sharp and nothing gets blurred out by a shallow depth of field. Moving on to ISO, to keep the noise down, I limit it to 400 max, but it can help speed up the brackets in a dark room where I'd have to use a slower shutter speed. So then the last step is to adjust your shutter speed to get an even reading on the exposure meter. But if you're just eyeballing it, try to get the interior bright and evenly exposed. Now I'm ready to press the shutter and let the camera shoot its brackets. After all 5 brackets go off, I'll quickly check my dark exposure to make sure I captured details in the window, and then I'm done and on to the next shot. Throughout the shoot, be mindful of mirrors or other shiny surfaces that might show your reflection. If possible, step out of the shot so that only your camera is showing, and then it'll be easier to Photoshop it out later. I like to move through the house like a SWAT team, and by clearing one room or space at a time, I'm less likely to forget to shoot something. In general, I try to get 2 shots per bedroom, 1 shot for most bathrooms, and 3 to 4 shots of kitchens, living rooms, and primary bedrooms. When in doubt, I always prefer to shoot more photos than I think I need. Then at home on my computer, I'll cull out the extra shots and keep them in a discard file so that I don't have to go back and reshoot if the client asks for that extra shot. Moving out to the exterior, I'll keep my wide angle lens on to shoot the yards, the porches, or any outdoor features that are selling points. I recommend that you take a moment to raise any umbrellas or take the covers off of hot tubs, grills, and patio furniture because it makes the photos more appealing, and by going that extra mile, your clients are going to keep coming back to work with you time after time. So we're almost done, and now it's time to get what I call the thumbnail shot. When buyers are browsing on the MLS, this one exterior shot acts as the thumbnail for the entire listing, so it's important to spend a little time to get this one right. So for this shot, I'll switch to my 24-70 zoom lens and raise the tripod to its highest setting. You want to balance the ratio of driveway to sky, so this is somewhere where I'll let myself break the rules of vertical lines and tilt my camera slightly up if needed. And I'll show some photos on the screen here for comparison, but I like the look I get between 35 and 50 millimeters. The compression just makes the house look a little more realistic, and by comparison, the wide angle lens just makes it look a bit wacky to me. I usually shoot 2 angles, one from straight on and one at an angle from the driveway side to show a little bit more depth. So that's a wrap for our photo shoot. If there's anything I didn't cover that you want to hear about, leave a question in the comments, or you can head over to fulltimerep.com where I provide in-depth resources on how to master real estate media to start your own business. I cover everything from how to get clients, how to shoot, how to edit, tips for managing a business, and we'll take you on some real life job shadows so you can get experience. But that's it for this video, and I'll see you in the next one. Oh man.
He loves it.
Just in case. And
Yeah, I'm ready for that.
I think that's it. Then we're going to exterior.